Okay, so when you need to plot a graph from a table, so let me just make one up really quickly. Oops, sorry, wrong way round. So you should always put the independent variable on top and the dependent variable. And let's just say the equation is y equals 2x plus 1. Then I draw up my values. And again, remember, you only need 2 points to draw a line, but 3 points at least would be handy. So I'm doing a few more just to make it nice and clear. So I choose my values for the independent variable. So I'm choosing a range of -2 to +2 as my values. I've chosen those. There's nothing magic there. I've just chosen them. Okay, now I substitute the values for x into y and so. So I go -2 into this equation here. 2 times -2 is -4, plus 1 is -3. And so I put the value -3 down here. Next one, -1. 2 times -1 is -2, plus 1 is -1. So I put the value in there. 0. Whenever you're choosing your values, by the way, always include 0. In fact, I'd say always include a negative value, 0, and a positive value, even if you don't do 5 values. Okay, x equals 0. 2 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. I'm starting to see a pattern here. You should too. Next one is 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Going up by 2 each time, aren't I? So the next one is 5. So now I have a range of values. Remember that we look sideways for our coordinates. So that's -2, -3, -1, -1, 0, 1, 1, 3, and 2, 5. These are our pairs of coordinates. And the x coordinate always goes first, and the y coordinate always goes second. So, for example, here is the coordinates 2, 5. It's the point 2, 5, or the point given by the coordinates 2, 5. Okay, so then we go from our table of values to our graph. So I'm just going to shrink this table a little bit so that I've got plenty of room for doing the graphing. Okay, so there's my table. Now the graph itself should always be done on graph paper and always with a pencil and always with a ruler. I might try and use a ruler. I don't think I'm going to be very successful, but I'll try using a ruler. So we draw an horizontal axis and we draw a vertical axis. That was alright, wasn't it? On graph paper.
So is the graph paper supplied in the test?
There will be. Well, the graph grid will be on the test paper itself. Yep. Then, using the squares on the grid paper, on the graph paper, we then mark off our x coordinates. And basically, when you're doing that, just keep in mind exactly the range of values you've got here, so that you're labelling your axes quite well. Not making it too squished into the centre or running out of room because you've accidentally not left enough room. So you've got to really just anticipate the range of values you need across the y-axis and the x-axis in order to make that work. So there's my axes. I'll label off my points. So I've got 1, 2, 3. I'm trying to be accurate here, but remember I don't have graph paper. -1, -2, -3, that's more than I need. It's 1. I've just gone one number more than I need. And then I'll label upways 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and downways -1, -2, -3 is enough. I'll go one more, minus 4. So I've labelled off all of my coordinates that are necessary. I should also point out too that I should be putting arrows at the end of my axes. I should be labelling my axis, my horizontal axis with the independent variable, in this case x, and labelling off my vertical axis with the dependent variable, in this case y. So we've got x and we've got y. Okay so far? Alrighty. So the next thing to do is to plot the points. So again, I go over to my table, I look at the values, -2 and -3, and then I plot that on my graph. So I go, there's -2 on my graph for the x-axis, there's -3 on my graph for the y-axis, okay? And then where these spots meet is where I plot my point. Just remember, mine's not very accurate at all. So there's -2, -3. The next one is -1, -1, which is going to be tucked in there somewhere. Sorry, it's not very clear. The next one is 0, 1. So remember that this is the origin. Where I've got the pointer showing now, that is the origin. That has coordinates 0, 0, the origin. The next point on my graph is 0, 1. That means that I'm not translating to the left or to the right at all. I'm not moving to the left or right at all. I'm staying at 0 for the x coordinate, and then I'm going up to here for the y coordinate. So 0, 1 is right there. And I put a dot there. I'm making my dots deliberately big so that you can see them, but you would actually just have pencil points for yours. If you want to, you can sort of put a circle around your pencil points so you can see where they are. In fact, I might do that just so you can sort of see it. The next point is 1, 3. So I go across to 1 on the x-axis and then up to 3 on the y-axis. So that's my next point. There's my point. Oops, that's no good, is it? Try that again. Like so. And then I've got 2, 5. So again, there's 2 on the x-axis, there's 5 on the y-axis, so there's the point there. And I'll just circle it. And again, you can see that those dots sort of form a straight line. Now, if I'd graph this, if I'd graphed this on graph paper and plotted it really properly, it would be perfect. As it stands, it's not going to be perfect. So I'm just going to have to approximate a little bit, but yours would be perfect. Okay, so note that the graph has gone from the very edge of my graph to the other edge of the graph. I haven't just joined the dots. It's not a dot to dot. You're supposed to go all the way through to demonstrate that the line goes on forever. And like I've said to you before, sometimes, I'm going to do it in blue so you can see it's optional, but sometimes I have seen arrows put on the end of the line that you draw as well to say that it goes on forever. Absolutely perfect. Perfectly fine to do that. So I should just point out then, in terms of your summary book, you should do things like point out. So that's an example graph. You might want to point out things like this is the x-axis. This is the y-axis. This is the, how do I put it, the graph of the function. This is the origin. Maybe just point to one of them and say, arrows at each at each end of axes. That's probably enough information. Okay, so you can that's what I mean by labelling your graph for your summary book with everything that you kind of need in it. All right, any questions? Cool.